All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. You're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And I'm your host, Adam Messer. This is the Adam Messer Show. And I have a very special guest today. His name is Justin Lane, and Justin is a good friend of mine. Welcome, Justin, to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Adam. Super excited, man. I hadn't done this since they reopened the Sizzler buffet in Rich and Pooler after the COVID.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Justin,
Super.
we're going to introduce you in just a second here, and Sebastian's going to play some live music for us. You want to take it away, Bass? And then we're going to come back, and Justin and I are good friends. We've known each other for about 4 years now, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy. I think y'all are really going to enjoy Justin's story today. So, Bass. Awesome, Bass. Thank you so much. And Justin, man, I'm so happy to have you on the show today, man. I am really excited. Folks that you're tuning in today, I usually have folks on that who are authors and artists and entertainers, and I also have other folks in our community who are like just great people. And Justin Lane is a good example of that. I don't want to brag on Justin a whole lot here, but I'm going to brag a little bit. Justin, when I met him, like he just has a lot of charisma and just one of those people you kind of gravitate to. And like we're, at the job, everybody just loves, gathering around, talking with Justin. And, Justin's always got like, a funny story to share or words of encouragement. And, so Justin, you also, in the last couple of years, you have taken off with your scaffolding company. And do you mind giving everybody kind of like a little background about yourself and then, talk about who you are and, what you're doing?
Been in the scaffold and insulation business for going on 15 plus years now. And the good Lord had opened some doors for me. This is going back, we're on our fourth year now, so almost 3 years back, where he opened some doors for me, and I took the reins and ran with them. And it's been an amazing experience, and that's what I want to share today is some of the trials I've went through, some of the hardship I went through to get me to this point where I am. And I think that is what's going to help everybody that's listening, is there are other people out here that's been through the same problems, and it's very hard to get up and go get it every day, but there's always a bigger reward in the end, and that's what I'm here to talk about today.
I love it, man. So everybody, I don't usually talk about like my day job, but I am an electrician apprentice, and I'm in the local Union 508. I met Justin on my first job. I don't know, like probably the first day or so of my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. I mean, I've like when I was a kid. When I say kid, when I was a young adult. I did like a little. I did some work doing some sheetrock and some stuff like that. I didn't really like construction work, and so I had a different path. And I did it for like a summer or so, and I know the basics. I know carpentry basics. I know like that kind of stuff basics. But I ended up getting into the electrical program because after working in a college for 10 years, that industry's changed a lot, and I needed to have a career that I could have for the rest of my life and not have to change jobs again.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I got into the electrical program, and Yeah, we worked for a project manager named Keith Campbell, who's an
Yes.
awesome guy. I don't
Awesome.
really want to mention like the company that we were working for or anything like that, but just we could talk about the people. But and Justin, man, one of the things I always loved was talking with you is like just you have such a good attitude about things, and you have like we all have had. Well, I don't say all of us. Okay, let me back it up. Like folks like you and me who've been down and out. There are a lot of folks that have been down and out,
Oh yeah.
and you always have a good spirit of like, hey, I might not be able to do this right now, but I'm gonna work and do the very best that I can.
Yeah.
And I love that, man. I just really do. I think that's one of the I think they call it like the indomitable spirit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one thing that I've talked to you about before, and we dealt with working out there was everybody is always going through something outside of work. Everybody's life, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's anxiety, depression, finances. So when you met me and these other people met me on the backtrack, that was one thing I always opened up because I knew it's never the same walk, but everybody in life is dealing with something.
Yeah,
And that's where I wanted. That's where That's where I gravitated to, and that's where I started. That's where this transaction started for me back then. And you will admit to the same thing. It was the morning prayers that Keith Campbell would do on Fridays. And that morning prayer, this is before I started my scalpel company, that morning prayer turned into me bumping into Keith at the gym and saying, hey, if you ever don't have something laid on your heart that the Lord wants you to say and pray for in front of these people, you can always call on me. Any time of the week, you can call on me. And the Lord has always got something on my heart to say, and I will be willing to say it. That's how it started. And then it transitioned into even after me. Then Adam, you also took them reins and said, hey man, Justin, you're a normal person just like me. We all don't live a perfect life, but at the same time, this guy's willing to stand up and pray in front of people and pray over people that you don't even know, and then you done the same thing. So
I've never had a job where I could do that, and that was a wonderful thing.
Never had a job where anybody was willing to pray over me or have a public prayer over everybody before they went home. It started out only on Fridays, but then you remember, then it transitioned into like a Wednesday. Then we went to every day of the week. We would pray over the whole everybody. And that's what I'm here to talk about today was the turning point in my life when everything changed was started out with that morning prayer.
I love that story. I mean, honestly, when you went on to running your scaffolding company, and I went up to Keith and I was like, Keith, I like to pray too, and so he asked me to pray for the group, and it was such a wonderful thing. And then there were times, man, like you would come back out and I'd see you when we'd be working together, and I'd stop and say, hey Justin, would you mind praying for me? And just it's one of those things like and everybody, let me just preface this here. I'm not here to try to transition anybody over. I'm not trying to proselytize or anything like that. I'm just talking with my friend today, and we're talking about our faith. So that's not my goal. I'm not trying to I definitely never try to convert anybody. I'm not going to do that. That's up to everybody's heart.
Yeah, I'm not a pastor, nor am I a Bible leader.
Neither am I.
Yeah, neither are you. What we're here as normal people saying, hey, there is something that changed in my life and in your life, and seeds that have been planted, and that's what I want to.
I love it.
Today is to say, hey, we are all normal people. Even though we are Christians, we are normal people here, trying to show and what worked for us. And I believe it'll work for everybody if we were all take a minute and try to back up and punt and try another direction. That's really what hit for me in all of this is a lot of people don't know my side of the story is before this scaffold company started, I went through a rough patch where I dealt with suicide. This one night when everything changed, I walked out on the back porch. It was a full moon night, and I remember praying to God and saying, I'm not happy where I am in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm destined for greater than this. Instead of me committing suicide tonight and being done with this, I want to give my life over to you.
Hmm.
I want you to
Wow.
change me. I want you to change me.
Wow.
and and the next day I went to work and I almost lost my job. I got caught sleeping in the truck. Not a lot of people know this. So most people would look back at God on that time and go, "Why? I just prayed to you last night. Why did you put me in this situation?" But I didn't. I kept the faith and I kept moving. And like 3 days later, that same week, Michael Garrett called me and said, "Hey, here's your opportunity to. We're ready to back you in the scaffold company." In that same week, my phone rings, and PWH was going out of business. They had filed for bankruptcy, and the owner of my company turns around and buys them and gives me the company to run. The same week that I cried out to God and said, "Please move me, please." So that's part of my story that I want everybody to understand. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm very uneducated. I didn't graduate high school. I don't have a GED. I didn't go to college. I didn't even go to a technical school. And this will be the second company that I've turned. This company's almost 4 years old, and we're almost touching $3 million right now that I've turned with a ninth grade education
That's
and
amazing.
a country boy work ethic.
That's amazing. And you know, I'm gonna tell y'all out there, scaffolding is not for the faint of heart.
No.
Carpentry work is, you know, one thing. And scaffold building, like y'all take these scaffolds and you go up and down buildings,
Uh,
uh, in the heat, 120 degrees. It doesn't matter. It might be hotter than that. Like, you know, some of the places at the
uh,
mills and all.
oh yeah.
And you know, you get the job done. And I think that's a big part of, you know, like I had the same kind of, not the same kind of thing, but I had a similar kind of experience where, I'm going to share this with everybody. I'm not, I told you, I think I told you this before, Justin, but I don't really talk about it in public, but
Yeah.
I'm going to share it. Um, so I was an atheist for a long time. I mean, like from the time I was 18 until I was like 36, and I'm
Yeah.
44 now. Um,
Mm.
I was an atheist because I had a lot of bad things happen in my life when I was younger, and I was like, you know, how could this happen? How could God let these things happen? And then, you know, I was like, well, you know, when you're a kid too, like you think you know a lot and you think you know
Yeah.
better. And
Oh yeah.
this is like I mean, it's not pre-internet. I graduated in 94, but definitely pre-smartphones and, you know, all that other good stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't believe in God. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I was never one to, you know, try to down anybody for their beliefs. You know, I feel like you have the freedom of religion,
Sure.
and you have the, you know, freedom to believe in whatever you want to believe in. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like to proselytize, because I don't like to try to convince somebody. You can't teach a bird to love you. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And so I was an atheist. I had some friends, where I worked, Tamika and Jolene, and Tamika would ask me to go pray with them, and they would, like on the little 9 o'clock break, they would go pray in one of the little rooms, and I'd always say no, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you, and like for 6 months, she kept asking me to, you know, go pray, and you know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and one day I was like, yeah, okay, you know, why not? What do I have to lose? And I'm in there, and I'm like, you know, the room's dark. They're over, you know, like we're all kind of spaced out, and we're all praying. And they've got, you know, a little radio playing some gospel music and stuff. And you know, I'm just praying, and you know, I don't know why I started praying. Couldn't tell you. I hadn't prayed in a long time. I mean, like
Yeah.
years, like 18
Oh yeah.
years.
Oh yeah.
And I started praying to myself, just some of the old church prayers that I could remember. I just kept saying it over and over and over. I kept saying the Our Father over and over again. And I don't know. I started praying out loud, and then all of a sudden, I felt like this flood hit me.
Yeah.
It just like this wave came over me,
Yeah.
and I started feeling, you know, the spirit in me, and then Tamika and Jolene came over and they started praying over me, And like I get chill bumps right now even just talking
Oh
about
yeah.
this.
Oh yeah, me too.
But they came over and started praying over me, and like all of a sudden I just started crying. And I started weeping, like not just crying, like little, I mean like weeping, like full fledged, just big old man bawling, crying, like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it back. I couldn't keep my composure.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was so overwhelmed in the moment, and
Well,
they were holding me and they were hugging me, and we were praying together, and and that's what had been missing out of my life was God.
yeah. Yeah.
God was always there. I wasn't there for God.
Yeah.
And I know I've told you this story, and I that's what I'm saying, because like I don't want to knock anybody out there, but there are
Yeah.
other people. Everybody has their own blessings. And
Oh
I
yeah.
look at it like God has blessings for everybody, and
Yeah.
He's not going to give, or they're not. He's not going to give your blessings to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
So there's no reason to be jealous of somebody else's blessings.
Right.
But I didn't follow the path.
Yeah.
And I got to do a station ID real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Everybody, you're tuning in today to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And Justin, since that day, I don't want to sound hokey, and I don't want to sound funny or anything like that. And I'm not trying to downplay it either. But
Yeah.
since that day, that has been like my go-to. Like
Yeah.
having a
Yeah.
relationship with God
Yeah.
has changed my life, because I was a very angry young man. I mean, I had a lot of anger. I was not, I always say, well, I used to always say this. I chose to be a nice person.
That's right.
I made that decision to be a nice person because my nature is not to be nice.
Right.
And since that day, I've had a relationship with God. I'm actually going through some stuff. I mean, like this year, I know everybody's been going through a lot of stuff.
Right.
I've been going through stuff, and I've been praying like, okay, God, what is my purpose? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you and I can talk on the radio here,
Open. Yes,
and
sir.
that we can share our story
Yeah.
with people. Because I mean, like, if you want to talk, folks, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you want to talk about like humble, walk of the earth, salt of the earth kind of person, Justin is that guy. And I'm not bragging on you here, Justin. I love you, man. I'm not trying to brag on you, but I'm just saying you are like one of the most humble people that I know. And I love that about you. I mean, like, I feel like I could tell you, like, oh man, I did blah 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 blah, and you'd be like, all right, you're not going to judge me.
Oh yeah. Many times you'll see me in the mill, and I'll tell you I love you, man. Anytime you've ever asked me to stop and pray for you, I have. And I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to brag.
I love it.
I'm here to say I am a normal human being, but I'm a Christian, and I'm trying to reach out and tell people what changed in my life and in your life and anybody I have touched life, because it's the truth. We're not blowing smoke here. What changed for me was that night I was going to commit suicide. I looked up at the moon and I prayed to the good Lord. I said, Lord, I'm strong-willed. I've always done it my own way, but I'm done.
Yeah.
I need you. I'm ready. If my way hasn't worked, and here I am working, making good money, and I can't even, I don't even have hot running water in my house because just way life was going at the time. I looked up and said, Lord, I'm going to try your way. My way is not working. I can guarantee you that 100%. My way is not working. I'm broken. I'm beat down, and I need a change in my life. And he did. The next day, I got caught sleeping in the truck at work. It was 30-something degrees, freezing cold. I've sat in the heater and dozed off. Next thing you know, the mill manager's beating on the door. Hey, boom. At that moment,
Wow.
I could have looked up at God and said, God, why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
Why did you put me in this situation? But I didn't. I kept the faith, and I kept on praying. I said, Lord, I'm going. If this is the path you have lead me on, then I'm going to go down that path. And that is the path that led me to you and to Keith Campbell and praying on the back track. And that evolved into what I wanted. I prayed to God. It wasn't necessarily a scaffold company. I just wanted to, I told the Lord, I want to be a lighthouse for you. I want to shine for you. Give me the platform.
Wow.
And I will do the shining. And
Wow.
here we are together. 3 years ago when me and you met, there wasn't a radio talk show. Me and you was just
Yeah.
construction workers that was rubbing elbows and telling funny jokes,
Yeah.
at work and cracking up.
Yeah.
But then you seen a little change in me at that same time. You didn't know I went through the suicidal stuff
No,
because
I didn't know it till just now.
yeah, that was I don't ever tell that story much, but it's part of my story and I want it to be heard. So I did. I was broken and beat down at that time and had nowhere else to turn. I have great parents. I have an amazing family, but I was at a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
So he did literally. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 months later. In that same week, I went from boom, I get caught sleeping in the truck to the next day I get a phone call, and the guy that was originally running this company, ironically, had tried to commit suicide and he shot himself in the chest. But it didn't kill him. The bird shot went all the way around his heart. Even the doctors told the man, it's a miracle that you're alive.
Oh, wow.
And I went to him. I planted that seed. I done all the talking I can do, but he is on his own path and he went elsewhere. Well, then here I am with a scaffold company that scaffolding's piled up, no organization to it whatsoever, with no employees. And I'm sitting there, thank you, Lord, for answering my prayers. But now what do I do? So,
yeah.
Yeah, then here we go. He starts, I try not to be anxious, but you can't help but anxiety to overthink the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And so, again, I'm not a Bible beater, but again, anytime I've needed an answer, I've opened up this Bible and he's gave it to me.
You know, I do this prayer, Justin, where, like, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious. I'll just pray to God. I'll say, God, please, lead me to the scripture that I need today. And I'll close my eyes and I'll just flip the Bible open.
Yeah.
And I'll put my hand down. I'll read where my hand lands.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times that scripture has been like right on the money.
Yeah. Well, that's been a lot of what I've done. I'm not, and I prayed to God this, and he knows my heart. He knows my soul. And I prayed, I said, Lord, I'm not somebody you can just give hints to. I need a smack in the face. I need a sign. I need a billboard.
I'm hard-headed too, Justin.
You know what I mean? Like, that's who I am. I'm a hard-headed individual.
Yeah.
But one of the first scriptures I opened up to was Matthew 34. It says, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Meaning that don't be anxious. He has already planned out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Deal with what I got ahead of you today. Don't worry about tomorrows and worry about the what ifs. And he's given me that reassurance to, as this transpired and transfolded, you've seen it. And my friends that have known me and they've seen the scaffold company take off. There are days that I go to work or I wake up on a Sunday and I don't know what my guys are going to do on Monday.
Right.
And let me reverse back a little bit. We've taken this scaffold company from 1 and 2. Aaron Boatwright was my first employee. We've taken this scaffold company from 1 and 2 and 3 guys to 10 employees in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Not just 10 employees. I just had a meeting with my guys last week, a little bit of a butt chewing meeting. And I asked every one of them, I said, what's the most money you've ever made in your life? They said, this company. Every one of my employees have never made more money than they are working with me to this day. I treat every one of them with the utmost respect because me and you both have been through rough jobs. We've been treated not so nice. And so I know what it's like to be treated like that. And I made that vow to myself and to the good Lord. If I had this opportunity, I was going to build a company where they didn't have to worry about how to get talked to. I try to help them out financially as much as I can. And again, the good Lord showed me, and I've been a witness to all of them, and I've opened my heart and my household up to all of them. And he showed me, as long as I keep my works and I keep my promise, he has made the work come. There's not been one single day through this whole pandemic. There's not been one single day I've woke up in the morning time and the good Lord hasn't provided the work to get us through payroll for that day or that week. Every single day I wake up, my phone rings, and it's people from 6 months ago, 3 or 4, 2 or 3 years ago calling me, hey, bam, another job, boom, something tore up. And you can't. That's why I spoke to you a few months ago and said, Adam, I want to tell my story, man. I can't hold it inside anymore. There has been something that happened in my life that has worked. You've seen it for your own eyes. My family and friends have seen it. I was married for 12 years. I went through a really terrible divorce. You know, it's been about 5 years ago now. Very, very rough. I've done every horrible thing in the book. Matter of fact, what the Bible lists of things not to do, I have check marks beside them because I was that person. I still am. I'm not here today saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm not saying, hey, look at Justin, he's got it figured out. I'm telling you what worked for me, and I'm wanting anybody within the ears listening of this today or 10 months from now when they listen to the podcast to understand I'm a normal person. I'm not a deacon of a church. I'm not a pastor, but I am a disciple for Christ. And that's what the Bible says. That's the only thing the good Lord has called Christians to do, is be a disciple for Christ, whether it's your voice like you are on the radio, whether it's me using a platform like this, whether it's somebody singing, you name it. We all have different talents. And when you use that talent for the right reasons, no man, it says in scripture, no man can stand before you when you do it in the name of Christ. And me and you have spoke upon that even before this radio station started with you. And you've seen it transpire, like morning prayers turned into your dream. You know what I mean? And my dream, I just spoke about this the other day. This is a dream of mine, to be on this platform, not saying, hey, look at Justin Lane, because he's a simple man. He is nothing special. But when I open up this Bible and I pray to the Lord that I pray to, and he answers prayers and he heals the sick, and I've watched it happen in my family and in my own life, I can't sit and be silent about it. I have to tell somebody, and I've told everybody around me. So I needed a bigger and better platform to say, hey, I'm not a Bible beater, but I am a Christian. And I can show you a way that will work, because we all go through something in our hearts, in our mind. It might be from 10 years ago, or it might be just from today, problems you deal with. But there is not a day that you can't close your eyes or do it with your eyes open and ask the good Lord for guidance, and he won't provide it. Or if you need somebody to pray for you, please find me on Facebook, find my company, call me. There is not a day that I will not stop and pray over somebody and pray for somebody and keep you in my thoughts and prayers constantly, because that's what we're all here for. At the end of the day, we live normal lives. We are workers. I pay bills. I got crazy kids that keep me busy. But at the end of the day, we were given one thing to do, and that Bible says we were supposed to be disciples for Christ. Whether you reach one person, and that was the one person you were meant to reach, or you reach 10,000, that's hearsay. But you're called to do a job, and if you do it, then the wants of your life will transpire. Do I want a scaffold company? Do I want all the? I was really beat up over doing this, because I have lived a very rough life. Like, I have made a lot of the wrong decisions. But the last Sunday was my first Sunday going back to church in probably a year. And Jonathan Phillips from Silk Oak Baptist Church, the last 2 Sundays he has preached has been directed almost to me.
Oh, wow, man.
Stuff I needed to hear. And it ain't just his church, his Shepherd's Oaks Baptist Church. It's Gateway and Pooler. Anytime I walk in the doors of them church and sit down, it might not be the whole sermon, but something I get out of it is telling me I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right things, and I'm headed in the right direction. So, but like anybody else, most of the time when my life gets back on track, then I go right back to my normal track again. And then 6 months later, I'm asking God, why me again?
Yeah.
Well, God has never changed. It's Justin Lane that has changed, or anybody with a name after that, has been the change.
Oh, it's
God
not just you, Justin. Not just you. I'm right there with you in the boat.
Hey,
we got to do the station ID. I one thing I want to add, Justin, one of the phrases that you said that made so much sense to me, and then I say this and I share this with people, is you told me one day, you're like, God doesn't love the sin, he loves the sinner. So I love that. All right, so we're going to be back in about 2 minutes, y'all.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming. And it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going. And you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is made possible by listeners like you and Brighter Day Natural Foods. Brighter Day is celebrating its 40th year serving the Savannah community with produce, vitamins, and supplements, and a deli and juice bar. Brighter Day is located at 1102 Bull Street at the south end of Forsyth Park. More information available at 912-236-4703 or brighterdayfoods.com.
The Live Oak Public Library System offers local residents access to hundreds of thousands of movies, television programs, albums, audiobooks, ebooks, and digital comic books for free on your streaming television and mobile devices through the Hoopla app. Supported devices include Roku, Fire, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android, among others. The selection is vast. All you'll need is your library card. Find the Hoopla app on your device and more information at liveoakpl.org.
All right, everybody, we are back, and today on air with us is my good friend Justin Lane, he's been talking about the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years, just a transition and your story about how God's changed your life. And I'll be honest with you, I am a hard-headed person myself, and I go through that same thing, man, where I don't know how to describe it, but like I can tell when I am actively involved in my relationship with God, and I can tell when I'm not.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, like, there's days where, like, I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, the last 7 years of my life have been kind of rough too. Yeah. Transition of jobs and a lot of different things, and when you're talking about, like, being a boss who treats your employees with respect and courtesy. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who don't.
Oh, don't, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really rough, when
it's a stressful environment. It's really a stressful environment.
Yeah.
Go and deal with that. It really is. We don't get to pick and choose, who God puts us beside.
No.
But we can pick and choose how we act.
Yeah.
And how we are displayed. And that was part of how me and you really became friends, and how you really love my story, because it didn't start out as just praying. It started out as you seeing me for who I was. There was times we'd be at work and I'm telling stories about the girls I've been chasing for that week or for that day or for that hour, and telling stories, and you there going, man, you are a freaking nut. And then you're not the only one, but then another person even thinking, and then they see me say the morning prayer, and there was times that you and multiple people have walked up beside me and go, hey, man, how can you say a morning prayer and then go over here?
Oh, no, I never said that to you. I never said that to you. That's why I was saying, like, I love the thing about, because, when you read the Bible, you look at the disciples of Jesus, they were all they all had their idiosyncrasies.
Oh, exactly. But,
I never thought of you like that. I never thought of that as being like hypocritical, because when I look at it is you, if anything, with the way that you have lived your life, to be able to come back to God and pray, to me is even better, because you know, you don't use it as like an excuse, like, oh, I'm going to sin and I'll just pray to God and, you know, just wipe it off. And some people try to do that, or some people try to buy their salvation. You know, like, oh, I'm going to donate a bunch of money to the church, and like it doesn't. Like you and I are having church right now. You know?
Or people that just say, hey, I'm going to wear a golden cross around my neck so everybody realizes I'm a Christian, but don't do any work besides that. But what I was getting to a minute ago, I wasn't saying about hypocritical. I was saying, like, you were one of the first people that told me you love the fact that I was a normal person. Like, you seen the fact that, hey, God works in my life, but dang,
oh, dude,
listen to what he does. Listen to what he does through Monday and Saturday, and you would never think the good Lord would shine a light down on me for anything in the world. But he used me, and that's what this is about. He put me. My grandmother used to say this. Sometimes the good Lord will put you flat on your back, where all you can do is look up.
Oh yeah.
And really what I did at that night when I was going through the suicidal thoughts and dealing with all of this, I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, my way is not working. Let's try your way. I've been taught my whole life, and that's part of what this outreach is I realized through hiring the guys that I've hired and multiple friends that not everybody was raised the way I was. Not everybody had amazing parents. Not everybody was raised in church. So that is part of my outreach now, is saying, hey, you know, I want to show these people I'm normal. A lot of people would argue that fact and say I'm far from normal because I am a little bit of a lunatic sometimes. But when we're talking about this,
you get excited and energized, man.
Like anybody else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things, like you said, that God hates the sin, not the sinner. He's always going to be there, even if I'm not here to answer your phone call. God is always a ear away. Please, anytime, if you're going through suicidal thoughts or anxiety, or you ever hit that brick wall and say, I can't go anymore, I'm losing my mind, there's always an ear listening. You can close your eyes. You don't even got to close your eyes. Pray out to the Lord and say, Lord, I need change. I need something different in my life, because what I'm doing now, paying these bills, taking these kids to soccer and baseball and football practice, barely scraping through, barely getting the dishes clean after eating dinner, and trying to keep the house clean and financially stable. It is anybody would pull their hair out, you know? So on top of this, I've been running a company for the last 3 years on top of the normal chaos, and I get overwhelmed to the point of almost getting sick. Like, it is something that and that's part of what I'm doing on this platform. I'm not here saying I'm perfect. I got everything figured out. I don't have no problems. Guess what? I'm a normal man. The pastor just spoke of that last week, and it's something that I've grasped hold of. He said, just because I'm a pastor don't mean I'm something special. I fight with the fact every day. I ask the Lord, why me? You can't choose somebody better looking or better hair or whatever. You know what I mean? Why me? What makes me? But guess what? The Lord chose me for a reason. He chose Reverend Jonathan for a reason. He chose you for a reason. And me nor you are pastors, but we're given a platform and we're given an opportunity where, just guess what? If one person is touched and reached, then we've done our job, you know. Or a seed plant. It's not mine or your job to change somebody. But guess what? It is our job to plant that seed, and God will nurture that seed, and he will make that seed grow, just like Keith Campbell did with me and you in that morning prayer on the backtrack. And that was really my turning point. And like I said, I went through the suicidal part while I was giving morning prayers. A lot of y'all didn't know it. I would give morning prayers. I had no idea. And cry myself to sleep in the bed because I was miserable. I could choose any girl that I wanted to. I had an amazing life, and you could ask any one of my friends at the time, and they'd tell you, Justin Lane has it made. He don't want or need for nothing. This joker has it made. But I would go home by myself, you know, on nights that I was by myself, and I would lay in bed by myself and be miserable and be broken and spilled out. But in that moment of being alone, and I always had God to pray to. And I did. I walked out on that back porch and I said, God, change me, change my life. I know I'm meant for greater. I'm not just here for no reason. I don't need a guess. I need you to really show me. And he did. And that's what I'm wanting to show people today. Like, if he can take a normal person like me and make me into somebody, he can do it to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I am as broken as they come, and somehow he has put me back together and molded me back into a person that is on this platform and able to tell people, hey, I don't have all the answers, but this book right here in front of me, the Bible, in any form that you can get it in your phone, open it up, read the scripture, and something will speak to your heart, because same way it done to me.
I'll tell you one that like is my tried and true go to, like when I'm not really sure where I want to start, like I'll go to the Gospel of John.
Yeah.
And I'll just read the Gospel of John. And to me, I mean, like all the Gospels are good. And God is good.
Yeah.
But the one, the Gospel of John just speaks to me. And, because it just reminds me of like you're saying, like we're regular everyday people.
Yeah.
And, because, man, you don't want to talk about like, just going through like losing everything. I went from, when I worked at the college, we talked about this. When I worked at the college, I was making pretty decent money, and I didn't really have a want for anything. My wife and we have 3 wonderful kids, and we've never had any kind of marital problems or anything like that. I've never gone through that kind of issue.
Yeah.
But dealing with depression and anxiety and stuff like that, and then when I went from making really decent money to, I had a job doing delivery. And I was making a killing working for them, but I was also killing myself. I was working like 90+ hours a week.
Oh yeah.
And I left that job, and then I had a couple other jobs where they, would promise you the moon, and then they, end up throwing you in the ditch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And getting into this electrical program, it's been a blessing because I have made some really incredible friends like you.
Yeah.
And it's been a humbling experience.
Yeah.
And I've never been a haughty person, and I've never been a person like I feel better than anybody. I've never been that way. Yeah. Everything that people see of me is me. I don't put on airs. That's one of the reasons why I love you to death, Justin, because you're like this here. Yeah. You're like this at home. You're like this at work. You're like this, if you went to California tomorrow and said, hey, I'm moving to California, you would be just like this in California.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
it's the way I was. That's the way I was taught. My dad's the same way. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I have a very wonderful Christian family. My mother and my father kept us in church, on Wednesdays, Sundays when the doors open, and so that's what a lot of it is. But being that I was raised in church every Sunday, every Wednesday, guess what? When I moved out of my parents' house, sayonara church. That was the first thing to go. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I bought boats. I built myself up in life to where I had boats, four-wheelers. I had done it all myself, but that house of cards come crumbling down. And less than 5 years ago, when we were talking about me starting this business, I had nothing. My daddy let me borrow his truck. I think I bought it from him for like $2,000 or something, but I had nothing. I was living back at home with my parents. My kids were visiting me every other weekend, and I had no money to help do anything with them. And that's what the breaking point was I had gotten through Christmas, right about Christmas time, and it was a struggle. But again, nothing I ever needed, I didn't get. The Lord always provided. It was the wants that always confused me.
Yeah.
I want a boat. Lord, I love you, but Lord, this is an 18-foot boat. I want a 21-foot center console, Lord. I want something a little bit better. And it wouldn't happen, and I would blame the Lord. Lord, I got I got a little raggedy boat, but it ain't what I wanted, So then I realized in life after he broke me down, and I finally, that's why I wanted to tell this story, is when I finally changed, I was broke. My account was overdrawn. My rent was not paid. I had no hot running water in my house. I was taking cold showers in the 30 degrees, having to put on a sweatsuit to warm up on the couch because my body temperature was dropping so bad. From that moment forward, when I went outside and said that prayer to the Lord, my finances, I make over $100,000 a year now. I have a 9th grade education. We're fixing to touch the $3 million that I've run through this company and going on 4 years. I have boats. My kids have the nicest clothes you could ask for. I'm sitting in a $70,000 truck right now, and we're talking about in less than 4 years' time. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, hey, look at Justin Lane and this nice flashy stuff he has. What I am saying is, hey, look at Justin Lane. He has figured something out. He has figured out the answer to life. And that is what I called and spoke to you about 2 months ago. I said, Adam, I know your show don't necessarily deal with lunatics like myself all the time. But listen, I have got to speak out. I have got to tell this story because I'm as normal as they come. I was a dead broke, didn't have nothing, nothing. And here I am 3 years later, 4 years later, got money in the bank. My kids are taken care of. I make over $100,000 a year, and I'm not just bragging on finances, but it's part of it. When you do right and you live right, you will see life is easier, life breezy. Your anxiety starts to slip away. Your depression, you start not being depressed over stuff that was depressing before. You know what I mean? You start really looking and going, hey, I'm alive. This life is a gift, and that's what the Bible says multiple times. This life is a gift. You and me both blink, and our kids are almost grown now. We started coaching and being out at Bloomingdale Rec Department, and our kids were little. Now they're getting grown, and we're looking like, man. So that's why I make this transpire in my life is, hey, time is flying by. I'm already almost 40 years old. I've made this change. I wish I would have done it 15 years ago when my parents were telling me to do it.
I gotta cut you off for a second. We gotta do the station ID, and I want to share something with you too. That everybody you're listening today to WRU LP Savannah, Georgia 107.5 FM WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul, and I'm on the show today with my good friend Justin Lane. I just want to let you know too, Justin. My good friends Terry and Darlene, they're listening live right now. They listen just about every week that they can. Yeah. And it says that they're really enjoying the testimonies and real people, and they're playing Scrabble right now. They do like a little Scrabble game every Sunday. And Terry and Darlene and I, we, here's the thing, y'all. I'm not being apologetic, and I'm not an apologist, but because I was an atheist for so long, and because I came back around to the Lord, just 8 years ago, I'm 44 now. Yeah. I don't like to proselytize. Proselytize, the word means to try to convince other people to follow your beliefs. Yeah. Okay. Right. I don't like doing that. But I will if people, are believers, and we're called to, have church together. Yeah. By that I mean, like, where there's two or more, there I am, right?
There he is. Exactly.
Yeah. So Terry and Darlene are some really, we've known each other for about a year or a little bit over a year now, but we've become such good friends, and we pray together, and so I love them, and they're great people, and and that prayer part has changed my life, and being able to have that relationship with God has also helped me in my relationships with people and my friends. And it, one of the prayers that I said, 5 or 6 years ago, was like, God, please show me, take the people out of my life that I don't need, and please bring the people into my life that I do need. And I was so surprised at the folks that came into my life and the folks that left. Yeah. And, when you're talking about being down and out, and, and I know this is one thing I want to, express to everybody, is that Justin is not a materialistic person at all. Right. Like these gifts that, you have received are because, like, people say, oh, a $70,000 truck. Well, that's a truck that you use to do your work. Yeah. Like having finances, you have 10 people that you're directly employing, and then there's probably 50 to 60 more people out, maybe 100 people outside of that who, they're helping, and their families are, living and stuff like that. And so, it's not just, God working through you for one person. Yeah. It's all these hundreds of people, and, thousands of people. You never know who's going to reach, what your message is going to reach. But, I feel like that's the incredible thing about the work. Like doing the work and just, being faithful, and I'm not one of the, I'm not the best person, in the world to say this, but I can tell when I'm, really in good with my relationship with God, and then when I'm not, it's like anything, if you got a garden and you don't tend to it, the weed's going to overgrow it.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And that's where I am with it too. I don't want anybody to hear me say, oh, the $70,000 trucks, the $100,000 a year, because guess what? I spend every bit of my money on my employees. I let them borrow money. I end up dead broke just about every week, but at the same time, it's a witness for me. I have helped people out in life that will forever be grateful to this, but it's not about being grateful to Justin. I use it as a platform to say, hey, I wouldn't be here to this day without turning my life over to Christ. And I wouldn't be on this platform without it. And me and you deal with a lot of the same heartaches and pain. Like my anxiety with this job, my payroll is over $10,000 a week.
Wow.
Not a month. It costs me $10,000 a week to keep these guys paid. Do you think Justin Lane's looks or my brains has went out here and said, hey, no, the good Lord makes my phone ring through people. And that's why I just opened my eyes to this, is because the phone don't ring just with people I deal with on an everyday basis. It could be months down the road and I'm getting a phone call that something tore up.
Wow.
And I'm not here saying, hey, I'm beating everybody over the head with the Bible. I just started going back to church last Sunday. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not here saying, hey, I got fireworks. Come, everybody look at me.
Yeah.
I'm saying, hey, my life is still imperfect, but one thing has remained the same since that night I changed. I'll tell you this little getaway too about how church is that next Sunday, and my mom knows this story, I'm not going to speak of the church's name, but that next Sunday I go to church, and I was so amped up to walk up in front of that church and to tell them that when you're saved, I wanted to renew my set. You know what I mean? I forget the word.
You want to renew your baptism.
Yeah, and the whole 9 yards. I wanted to go up in front of the church, make a public confession with my mouth.
Yeah, your confirmation and all.
The one of the pastors of that church, I walk up beside him and I said, hey, I want to. Oh, this is what it's called, a rededication of your life.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I said, I want to rededicate my life. He looks at me and says, hey, go talk to them guys in the back of the church back there. We're fixing to run over, and I don't want this church to get out later. Everybody will be mad at me.
Oh,
and
wow.
That still to this day bothers me, but that is part of what people see and run into in church. And I'm here to tell you, whether you're in a church, you go to Silcope or you have a Oaks Baptist Church, and you don't get treated like that. But don't ever let any man get in between you, because I didn't go up front and publicly confess that day, but I never stopped being a lighthouse. I never stopped being a beacon for Christ.
Yeah.
My public confession didn't need to be in front of that church. It's been a public confession every day that I bump into somebody. And I'm not walking around as a bubbly Christian every day. You see it at work when we bump into each other. We live a normal, hard life. But guess what? I am a very compassionate person, and I have been through many, many, many situations in my life that most people have. And when we sit and talk, you see it. Like I will turn off my life and listen to your burdens for a minute, because I'm here to help you. I'm here to help the next man, because guess what? You at the same time are planting seeds. You started praying, and now you see in life, we blink, and this has been 3 years ago, Adam.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It was 2017, like the beginning of 2017 when I met you.
I know.
And it's just, I hate to say time flies, but it really has gone by. Yeah. And even with all the different things this year, it's been up and down. Justin, we got to do a little break until the 4:00 hour. I know you're going to be hanging out with us. Do you have like any like a 30-second little closing? Just a little summary of what you want to share with people.
Yeah, I'll go over a little summary.
Yeah, we got like about a minute left before we go for the break.
Okay. This is what, if I could leave with one thing, I would tell everybody to, if you're not happy with your life as present right now and what's going on in your life, and you won't change, it doesn't take praying to me. It don't take me praying for you. Close your eyes, open your eyes, walk outside, find somewhere quiet, and pray to the Lord and say, Lord, I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to give this a shot. It's working for other people, and I'm going to give it a shot. And try it. What do you have to lose? If you don't, then what do you have to lose? Try this way. it's not my way. I don't want to say it's my way. Try this way and then see. Run it for 6 months and see how the good Lord works things out in your life, and just see. And I think you'll be blessed. I really do. I think the same blessings that me and Adam and multiple people in my life have had have been through these works, and it's been a blessing. I hope to touch one person with this today.
That's amazing, Justin. So thanks a lot, man, for being here. Well, I'm looking forward to the next hour too. So we're going to be back at 4:00, y'all.